So this is unlike English. English, you only get the meaning of the word and how it is associated with other words. But in Arabic, it's the vowels also that give meaning. And we also have suffixes, something that comes after it to give it meaning. Like say, kataba, say we put the noon and katabna, for example, then this also gives a meaning. So we'll explain that in much more detail, inshallah. But just to note that it's not just those three letters that give meaning. It's the vowels on the words and letters that come before it. I mentioned after, but there are letters that come before as well, or in between. Now, just an example of a word that has a letter that comes in between. We have katib, katibun, which is a writer, a person who writes. So we have this addition. Anyway, sarf will empower you to understand the meanings of a word prior to it entering into a sentence. So it's quite important to know these things. So that's why we learn sarf usually before nahu, which is before we learn Arabic grammar. So we have the verb nasara. Let's just nasara. Sorry, just anyway. So nasara means he helped. Now we could add, say, Muhammad, for example. Let's add Muhammad. And who did he help? Let's say he helped Zaid. So Nasara Muhammadun Zaidan. Muhammad helped Zaid. So this would be called active, because the subject, the person doing the action, is mentioned, which is Muhammad. Okay? Now, if we take the same verb and say we wanted to make it passive, so let's do it again. Nusira, Nusira, and then we put Zaid. Zaidun, this time it will be Zaidun. What this means is Zaid was helped. Helped him? We don't know. It could be Muhammad, but Muhammad's not mentioned. It could be Khalid. We don't know. So that is called passive. Now, you can only have a passive verb when the verb is transitive. Now, what does transitive mean? It means the effect of the verb will go to an object. For example, if I used, for example, jalasa, and say we had Zaid. Jalasa Zaidun. Zaid sat. It doesn't need an object. I mean, the verb just needs a subject. The act is complete. Zaid sat. So this would be considered intransitive. It's not transitive. So this cannot have a passive, because this is the subject. If we take off the subject, it wouldn't make sense. There's no action. However, when, say, you have Nasara, because its action is directed to an object, which is Zaid. Therefore, it can be made passive. So that's the difference between transitive and intransitive.